It says live.
We're live.
We're
Did it
live.
right.
Well done, hon.
Have we posted this anywhere? I know we've just gone live and I should have asked.
I did just put a little thing on Instagram briefly. So if you're here from Instagram, hi.
Hi.
But yeah, well, who wants to kick off the live stream?
Technically, it should be Mariette.
Oh, God.
Technically,
Oh, my God, yeah.
if you'd like to, you can go for it, Mariette.
I don't know what to say. It's been like 3 months since I've actually joined for various reasons. So, hi, everyone, if there's more of an audience than there used to be. Welcome to April's.
April, yeah.
April.
That is how long it's been. April's book club meeting. This month was my pick. I finished yesterday because I'm so organized.
To be honest, I don't think Jess has even finished it. So
I saw on Goodreads she started it yesterday. So I was like, good.
So you're way ahead, hon.
So yes, the phone book at the edge of the world. It was so.
Yours is shiny.
Yeah, mine's shiny as well. A little.
Oh, that's not shiny.
I don't normally start these things. I don't know what to say.
Well, we haven't got Nori and we haven't got Jess, so it's just going to be
Jess is in the comments. She says hello.
Hiya.
So she's here in spirit.
Jess
is babysitting. That work life, got to get the dollar. And Nori's not feeling the best today, so they might join us later, or maybe in the comments, or maybe not. So yeah, but you've got us three, so it's gonna be fun. Woohoo! But yeah. So Mariette, why did you choose this book? Because I've never heard of it before, and I'm just curious to know, like, why.
Why did I? Well, this is the. I'm sure it's probably been explained, but it's been so long since I've joined one of these, as I said. For one of our books this year, we had to choose a book that we wouldn't normally read before, and my mum lends me lots of books because we exchange them a lot. And this is one that she picked up. I'm not really sure where she picked it up from, but it's one that she picked up, and she said she enjoyed it. She was like, and she wasn't sure how I'd feel about it. And I thought it sounded. I thought I hadn't heard of it before. My mum had lent it to me, but I thought it sounded really interesting, and I thought it would be an interesting discussion. Just reading the blurb, because I hadn't read it before this month either. So I don't know. I thought it was an interesting book that I just happened to end up with in my collection of books to be read. So I just thought it would be an interesting choice for everyone to discuss, to be honest.
Oh, fair. I'm the same with my mum. I feel like it's me more putting books to my mum than her doing the same to me.
Oh, same.
But yeah, we both read a lot.
But more books go that way than this way.
Yeah. Well, shall we start with our usual kind of non-spoilery thoughts and feelings and ratings and things, and
that
take it from there. Well, who wants to go first? I feel like
you can. Janet is your.
Okay, well, all right. I thought it was a great book. Not that I wanted to go first or anything. But okay. I think I rated it 4 stars. I need to double check.
Why do we do this every single time?
I know.
Why are we like this?
Why are we like this? While I'm waiting for this to load, I did put lots of little sticky notes. I don't know if you can see very well. But like literally I read the prologue and I was like, I'm going to need to read this again and put the sticky notes in, because this is going to be a good one. I feel like there's just a lot of interesting ideas, and the ways that they described a lot of things, and just the writing itself was so beautiful. I'm getting distracted. I can't talk and do other things at the same time. Zoe will know. What was it I said to you the other day? I just put the house in the middle of a sentence because I was watching Grand Design.
I was like, cool.
And I was just like, that was not meant to go there. But I didn't even realize I was typing it either.
But he was like, house wasn't supposed to be in that sentence.
But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I feel like it could have been a 5-star, and I think there were parts as I was reading it, I was like, I'm pretty set on a 4, but I feel like depending on how it ends, it could easily be a 5-star.
Yeah.
But it didn't quite have that for me to be a 5-star, but I still loved it. It was kind of one of those, it's definitely character focused, and I quite like those, and I think in this book it works quite well because you don't really need the plot as such. I think it is more about, you know, how humans react to things like grief and moving on and like that kind of thing. So I feel like it was a good exploration into that sort of human nature. Ooh, okay. Deep here. But yeah, I feel like that's all I've got to say at the moment. So who would like to go next?
Zoe?
I gave it 4 as well. Again, it takes a lot for me to give a book a 5. Janet's similar in that regard. But I really liked it. I thought it was so wholesome in kind of a sad, devastating way. I think it's quite different to anything else because while it's a novel, it doesn't actually feel like a novel. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because, you know, I'm reading at the moment The House in the Cerulean Sea, and like that's such a prime example of it being a novel. You know, it's a story. There's all these kind of character building and world building and things like that, and you feel like you're in like someone's imagination. But then this is just like a story. This is just what happened, and it could in some ways be non-fiction because, I mean, it's not non-fiction, but it could be because there's no real like story building. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
like, there is story building, but it's just like this happened, this is what the character did, this character did
like
this bit.
Following them as they kind of go through life.
Yeah, and I really liked it because it was still really beautiful. And the story is really devastating, but it's not really like the premise of the story is very devastating, but it's not a devastating book. And it's quite interesting, and I really liked the stylistic way it was written with the different chapters, which we'll go into later. But so yeah, I gave it 4. I thought it was a cracking book. I really liked it, actually. Different.
Yeah,
that's good. I'm happy people enjoyed it.
You, Han, your turn.
Oh god. I forgot to think about a star rating when I finished it. I'm going to be honest, so we're going to do that now. But I think I'm with you guys in it being like a 4-star book. I really enjoyed the writing style. I thought it was really pretty. I enjoyed the main chapters, and then after every main chapter, there's like a little bit of extra information. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was a cool kind of way to just give you more like context without interrupting the story too much, if that makes sense. I really enjoyed the characters and things like that. The thing that mainly brought it down for me, and I think this is just the way my brain works, I got confused with the passage of time a little bit and the amount of time that it were in between some of the things that were happening. I think that's just because I think I've said that before with other books. My brain just needs something to like physically be like, no, this many years has passed, otherwise I can't like quite compute whether it's 2 days or 3 years. Because
we talked about that with One Damn Thing After Another, didn't we?
Oh yeah, we did.
So I really enjoyed it, and I'm very glad that I made everyone else read it with me, because I think it's a difficult book to read and then not have someone to discuss it with afterwards.
Yeah, it's definitely one that left me like thinking a lot afterwards. I guess it's quite I don't want to say it's philosophical, but it kind of is. I don't know. I mean, I think it is a book that's meant to make you think about these sorts of things. And yeah, I agree. I feel like it's one that you have to sort of talk about with other people afterwards, even if it's not the book itself, just the themes and the topics and stuff like that, because it's something everyone will go through at some point in their life, you know. So yeah, and also I quite like the fact that it is based on a true place, isn't it? Like there is a real garden somewhere in Japan.
But it says at the back, she wrote like, this is not a tourist destination. It's just like, do not go there unless you actually are going there to
talk to someone.
I really, not that I've ever been to Japan, but I appreciated that, because you know, if it's obviously, you know, you can see just from the book itself, it's a place that means a lot to a lot of people.
I think it's not spoilery, but we should probably explain what the phone box is.
Yeah, I was just thinking maybe we should sort of talk about the
no, it's not spoilery. It's in the blurb. So for anyone who hasn't read the book, you should go and read the book. It's really good, and it makes you think of things that you probably hadn't thought of before. But so the phone box is basically a phone box in a garden that's really close to the edge of the sea, hence why it's called the phone box at the end of the world. It's not connected to anything, but it's believed the wind can carry the words of what you're saying to those who have left you. The common use is for those who've died, but we find that some characters in the story don't necessarily use it to talk to those who've died, but maybe just those who have left them for some reason, whether it have been mentally or physically. So the plot, so the book in essence bases around one character who hears about this phone box and goes to visit it, and how it changes her life and changes other people's lives that she interacts with at the phone. I think that's the best way to describe it. But
yeah, I think so too. I think it's pretty much you've summed it up there. I'm just trying to have a look in the book again because I can't remember why. I've forgotten what I was reading anyway. I don't know what I was going to say. Never mind.
The author, she's Italian, but she moved to Japan. I think she married a Japanese guy.
Yeah, I don't know the details. I know that she lives in Japan, or at least lived there.
I think she's married to a Japanese guy, hence staying there. So I think that's quite nice because she actually lives there and has a deep love for the country and whatnot.
Yeah, and I think as well, something. I mean, I don't always read a lot of translated fiction, and I think it's something. Maybe I'm not the only one in sort of.
I don't do it very often.
Yeah, I think sometimes I worry that the meaning can get lost in the translation, or it's, you know, a lot of people say, oh, you have to read the original in the original language, but obviously not everyone can do that. You know, not many of us speak more than one language. So yeah, I was quite like, I don't want to say I was surprised that that wasn't the case at all with this book. Like, it was just nice that my kind of assumptions beforehand were not the case. Like I said, I think the writing itself was one of my favorite parts of the book. The way it was written, the descriptions of things. It wasn't just, you know, like, oh, it's so beautiful, blah, blah, blah. You know, like the way it's written and the way she kind of compares it to other, I don't know, not the phone box itself, but just generally speaking. I'm trying to sort of look through my book with my gin and it's not really working. But there was something like she described something as being like meringues, I think is like the clouds or something like that. I can't remember. But I mean, it might not be the most like, I don't know, creative description for some people. But for me, I was just there like, yeah, she could have just said soft, fluffy clouds, but they're described as like, you know, something else. And I was just there like, yes, you get points from me. That's a really bad example, but anyway. But yeah, I love the writing style. I think that was like one of my favorite parts. Although there were a couple of points, I think here or there were some, maybe it was just the translation or the editing or something. I noticed a couple of things that could have been, or at least I would have said differently, or it didn't quite make sense. But I think, I mean, that happens even in just English books that are written in English and edited in English, you know. I think there were a couple of things that might have been missed, but I mean, not a big deal in my opinion. But
no. Let's talk about how beautiful the cover is as well.
Honestly,
I know, it's
I love it.
So beautiful.
And the fact that like the flower, the blossom goes all the way right round the spine. I like that.
Yeah.
It's so pretty.
We love the detailing. And there's the little phone on the side. I just think it's beaut.
Yeah.
Absolutely loved it.
Definitely recommend. Yeah. And I think also, so I think Mary was saying about the different characters. I quite like how they all kind of intertwined in some ways, and I don't know, they definitely make. I mean, obviously, it's kind of very much a character study. I would say this book is character focus and stuff. But how they all, you know, they add something to the book. You know, I didn't think that any of the characters were just kind of placed there for no reason. You know,
They
added.
had a purpose.
Yeah, and that was quite nice, because I think sometimes you kind of go back and think on it and be like, oh, well, that person was only there because X, Y, and Z, you know. But I think with this one, even if they just came in for one chapter, it kind of just showed, like I think we've said already, you know, the different reasons why people are using this phone box. It's not just if they've had a loved one who's passed away, for example. Like, it might be like they have actually lost someone, you know, they don't see each other anymore, but the other person is alive or whatever. I don't know, I think that just added so much more depth to it. I don't know, I feel like that.
Yeah, it's also like a prime example of how impactful people can be in your life and your journey, and because this is effectively a journey of coming to terms with grief and riding out that path, if you will. And it's quite subtle in the way that all these characters come in. They are prevalent, and yet, I mean, I don't think it's a spoiler, but like, obviously, as it starts to conclude and you see the role they've each played in each of their lives, and I think it's quite a human way of showing the impact that everyone that you meet has on you in that particular kind of journey. And you meet and you learn everyone else's stories, and that then you apply that to your own grief and how you can learn from them. And it's never a particularly aggressive impact, but they're just so subtle in the ways that they, and like even like the smallest thing in their life later on, they'll be like, that was sewn in by the person they'd met 3 months ago. And but it's not, you know, a huge part of their life, but it's characterful and it's masterful.
And I think what adds to that, not always, but the little kind of in between chapters, I think that adds to it, you know. So it'll be there, like I mean, right at the beginning when the main character is driving to the phone box for the first time, I think it's like the second or third chapter or whatever it is, it's like the list of songs that she was playing, or like I don't know, left a note for her, then the next chapter would say what the note said, or like the conversation that she had with someone in passing, or like little things that you wouldn't necessarily pick up on. I think the fact that they were included not in the main story but in between, it was more personal, didn't it?
Yeah, I really, like, I can't find it now. I don't tab things. I
tab things, but there's no order. It's just random. So
I liked that one of the in-between sections had things that the voices carried from the window. That chapter, just like hearing the different like snippets of sentences that people had said to their loved ones. I really enjoyed that was included.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess it goes without saying, like, if you know people do want to read this, like, content and trigger warnings, you know, mainly it's just grief is the main one. So I suppose if I feel like people will have come to that conclusion already based on what we've said. But,
I feel like, and it is based on a real world tragedy, wasn't it? The tsunami that happened. So that would obviously be kind of triggering if anyone was involved in that. So it was the I don't want to pronounce this incorrectly. Just next to the city of Utushi. It's one of the worst places hit by the tsunami of the 11th of March 2011. So that's if anyone was involved, or you know, that's a real thing.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, definitely a very thoughtful book that left me, you know, thinking. I guess was the point. Yeah. Well, do we want to go into the spoiler zone, or is there anything else you want to say?
No, I don't. I didn't really prepare any questions for this one, but I mean, they've got reading club pet things.
I was going to say we can just use that.
Run out of things that we like want to say. We can always just dip into them. But I thought this, as well as being unprepared and slightly lazy, I generally thought this book would be one that the topics would be like kind of there, and everyone would be like, no, there's a specific thing I want to discuss.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't made a list or anything like that of points. I kind of just put stickers in. I feel like I'll flick through the pages, and if anything stands out, then I'll talk about that. But otherwise, that's it.
Just like one of the first questions in the group that I would be interested in both of your responses is, did you see the book as a love story at all? Like, did you see, I can't pronounce any of their names, and in my head I didn't read their names properly, but just between the main two characters, just between the main two characters, did you see that? Did you see the main message of this book as a love story? Because I'm not sure I did. I thought it was kind of a nice kind of coincidence, but not the reason of the book.
Yeah, I think it's definitely, obviously, I think it's more just how life continues, and, you know, love might come into that, I feel like was the point, kind of like, you know, what you were saying, it just kind of happened by chance. Like, I feel like that was the point. No, she maybe starts off, I think she starts off kind of with no interest in sort of finding anyone else, just sort of looking after herself, and then, you know, through this tragedy they do find each other, and it's all like, yeah, it kind of sparks from there. I didn't necessarily see it coming, like the love story. That wasn't what I was expecting from this book. Once we reached a certain point I was like, oh, okay. But at first,
get where you're coming from. I thought they would just
friends.
They were friends, and I wasn't really expecting them to become anything more. Like, as soon as they did, I saw all of the signs for them, like, oh yeah, that's why they wrote it like this and this. But I was just like, oh no, they're friends. They've become friends because of this tragedy that has happened to them both, because of this one place. I didn't think it would turn into more than that.
Yeah,
I did. I knew it was going to happen when I read the blurb. It says when his blah blah blah, and they said what happens next will warm your heart even when it feels like it's breaking. I was like, well, they're going to get together, aren't they? Because they specify they use a bereaved.
That's the fair point. I read it like that.
It says a bereaved husband, so I was like, so he's single, and they've specified that he's a husband. So in my head, I was just like, well, it's obvious it's going to happen. But I mean, but to go with you guys, I didn't expect it to happen as it did.
Yeah,
I think because it's not like, so to answer your question, Mariette, no, I didn't see it as a love story at all, because I don't think even they did. She's just kind of eventually, she'd been there every day, and eventually they were just like, you might as well make this permanent because I've realized I'm in love with you. So it's less of a love story because it's just kind of a story that has an element of love as a consequence, maybe.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Put a dampener on that.
But what was I gonna say? I don't know. Can't remember. Never mind. Maybe it was the gin making me forget. Maybe it's because I've just used up all my energy over this weekend. Who knows? But
exercising. What were you thinking? Honestly, I think love story would be kind of an insult to what the book actually is, because I think that takes it down a notch of the power it's got, because it's not about romance, you know, it's about more than that. And who said that it was about life just kind of moving on, was it? And that's just the way it is, and if that happens in your future, I think for someone to, like, the main character, how are we saying her name? Because Janet and I both think we say Yui.
That's how I was saying it, but it was one of those things that I'm not very good at saying any names, so I didn't want to say it until someone else had gone with it, and I was like, okay, cool.
What does it say? There's a bit about language on the front, isn't it? Isn't there? So the habit is used for transcription, according to which vowels are read as short vowels in English, like the A in cat, E in edge, and I in igloo, and U in umbrella, unless they carry a macron which doubles the length of the vowel sound. So the G and so I think we're right. I think
things that don't make sense to me.
I'm not sure that makes sense. Maybe should we just go with Yui, or is it you? Don't know.
I don't know. I mean, I've been saying Yui.
Yuri and Yuri were the kind of the ones in my head, but Yuri has an R in it, I think, so Yui makes more sense.
Let's go Yui. Yui's been through such an incredible loss. I mean, they both have, but you know, hers is she's kind of left with nothing, isn't she, effectively? And I think it would be wrong to say that this is about her trying to find love again, because that's not. Janet and I were talking about this. There isn't actually even, we don't learn anything about love beforehand. There's no mention of the child, of her partner or any partner, other than like a brief.
Yeah, I don't think he's in the picture at all. Like, from reading between the lines, and again, I didn't tab it, so I can't really remember what it says perfectly, but she kind of mentions about him. Just, I can't remember what it was, but it just made me think that was like, okay, so he's not there. He's never been there. Okay, she's just her and him.
Yeah. And I feel like the lack of his presence, I guess, in any form, you know, be it her talking about him or just him being there at all, I think it kind of just shows like that how final that was, you know, the end of their relationship or whatever it was, whether it was, you know, long term or just for fun, or I don't know. We don't know. And I feel like, you know, I think that kind of makes, I don't know, I think it shows a lot about Yui as a main character. I think she is very private and very, I don't know, she keeps to herself throughout the book. Even at the end, I think she's still pretty private. She doesn't really open up all that much. And I feel like that, I don't know, I feel like her and is Takeshi, isn't it? The guy.
That's how I was saying it. So I'm glad that.
Yeah, that's what I was saying,
Takeshi,
Takeshi.
yeah. I thought Takeshi.
I feel like even together, they, like her more than him, it kind of felt a bit like, I don't want to say one-sided, because I feel like she probably does care for him, but she doesn't really show her emotions all that well. And maybe it's because of everything she's been through. But
and I think, like, as we're in the spoiler zone, that's like particularly amplified by the wedding bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I don't need to propose. That's a natural next step. And then she's like trying to remember in her head when he asked the question, but not wanting to be like, did you ask? Did I say yes to this?
Yeah,
I feel like that like just section there shows their relationship perfectly.
Yeah. And you know, I think maybe an element of like culture comes into that as well. Like I was there like, well, why don't they just talk about it? But then I don't know what it's like in Japan to, you know, in relationships and talking about marriage and stuff. I mean, maybe it's not that different, but like I have no idea.
It took me completely off guard when he was like, oh, he just assumed the natural next step was marriage. So he's like, I think a good date would be May. Like, I was like, what? That's not how that works.
Yeah, and I feel like going back to the beginning, Mari, you were saying with like time passing and stuff, like I feel like this could have taken place over the course of a month or a few years. Like I didn't really know when this was happening. So then when they're talking about getting married, I still felt like they were early on in their relationship. I feel like they hadn't really kind of spent enough time together, or I don't know.
I know in random points of the book, they're like, as they would be like, as they would see the phone box every month, and this would continue for a year. But I didn't understand then, have we jumped a year? Or are we still like in the first few? That was the bit that was like confusing me. It would say things like that, or like, oh, they start going every 3 months. It was like, so have we been? That was the bit that I just couldn't get the passage of time right.
Yeah, and I suppose like with those moments, it kind of shows like they are going to stay together, so they are going to probably end up getting married and so on. But I felt like I wouldn't say it was necessarily disjointed as such, but there were moments where I was a bit like, oh, okay, I wasn't expecting that to happen now, for example, or I
think it's over the course of about 3 years, isn't it? This book.
I think so. Yeah,
but it is. I think that's because I think Hannah, the Takeshi's daughter, she's 5 or 6 by the end, isn't she? She's 3 at the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting writing style. Hamlet does something very similar. I'm not gonna. That's not a spoiler. That's just kind of what it does. It talks about a character, and also effectively tells you the consequences of a decision they've made, but doesn't change the time zone. So it says, like, for example, there's a bit where one of the characters, I'm going to say like in Hamlet, she's like, she stayed somewhere, and then it's like in the coming months she'll whatever her name will Agnes will question whether she should have left earlier and would it have made a difference, this kind of thing. And that kind of just shows you what her thoughts, the consequence of that decision, but it doesn't actually change the time. It just kind of it's an interesting style of writing. Not many books do it, and I think it's similar in this, isn't it? They're like, in the years to come, they'll keep going back, and it's like it just kind of answers a question that we may have, but they're not going to revisit that. It's just to kind of tell you what happened. It's quite interesting, but it can be. I understand what you're saying, Mary. It's a little bit jarring at times if you're not quite following the time scale, because it's not an obvious 3 months later, 4 months later as a title. You just have to kind of keep following it. But I think the premise is it's over the next. And that's what I meant at the beginning about it's not a story that you're following. It's just kind of her life. And it's like, so they'll continue to do this over the next few years. And then we kind of go back to where they are now. And it jumps back and forth, which I quite liked. But if you can't keep your head around it, it can become a bit like, so where are we now? But I think Hannah's. I think she's sick by the end, isn't she?
Yeah, I know she's young at the start, and then by the end she's at school, and they mentioned her 6 to go to school. So I understood that time had passed, and I understood that by that point it had been a few years, but it didn't help me figure out where things were happening before that, if that makes sense. But I think that's just the way my brain works. I'm not very good at subtlety. I need things to be very clear. I know isn't like that's when you're thinking about great writing, that's not exactly the writing you think about. You think about things more like this book that is a little bit more harder to understand, especially for brains like mine.
Honestly.
Yeah. But I suppose kind of going back sort of to the theme of love and stuff. Obviously Yui's lost her own daughter and she kind of gains a daughter through Hannah by the end of it. And I feel like that's a totally different type of love, isn't it? I mean, that's quite an obvious statement, but there was a part I tabbed. It was after, well, my book, I guess we've all got a similar copy. Wow. Page 218 in mine, but it's when Yui's just spent the first night at Takeshi's house, and Hannah's kind of like, are you still awake? And she's like, oh, is there anything you need? And then she's saying, you know, she just wanted her there in the same way a person might want a second coffee in the morning or an extra blanket in winter. And I was just there like, I can picture that feeling so well, you know, like when you're just like, oh yeah, go on, why not, come on in, sort of thing. And I feel like that shows, you know, like their relationship is probably going to be one like that, you know, like someone can, it's like being in a comfortable silence with someone, you know, when you don't feel like you have to say anything and it's not awkward or whatever, it's just you're happy with them there. And I feel like that's probably their sort of relationship as well. I'd like to think that as they, you know, spend their years together, or just be something that's quite, you know, they can be content with each other and each other's presence. And I feel like, Yui does that for Hannah a little bit, you know, she's just kind of like, she's very good at listening. I feel like she's been described as a good listener. So it's interesting because then obviously at the beginning Hannah doesn't talk, so maybe she just needs someone there, and that's kind of all the love she kind of needs. I don't know if that's made sense, but yeah,
definitely.
I liked in the book how they showed that Hannah was not a replacement for her daughter, because the way, like, when Takeshi started talking about the marriage and things like that, and then she starts having a crisis of whether she could love Hannah like like she loved her own daughter, and then ultimately deciding that it was two different kinds of love. I enjoyed that it was like a little mini kind of breakdown in the spiral, but I kind of enjoyed that they showed that no, it would be two different kinds, so that she wasn't using Hannah to replace her own child. I just enjoyed that they showed that and how they showed that.
100%. It's I always think as well, what I was going to say. It was about Hannah. Oh, eventually, kind of Hannah. If I thought it was going to be a longer running theme, the fact that Hannah didn't speak, because the way on it's on the back, I thought that was going to be like a real ongoing theme of the book, to the point where like it's by the end she'll suddenly speak and it'll be like, yay! But it was, you know, it was like a couple chapters that we met her and she wasn't speaking, and then she speaks and we're like, oh, okay. And I mean, it didn't take from it. It wasn't a bad thing.
Mm.
I think I was just expecting it to go on for a little bit longer. But again, whether that's to do with the time of the book. Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. The time frame of the book, maybe. But then eventually it will come to the point, sad as it is that Yui will be Hannah's mother figure for longer than her real mother was ever with her. And that's another part, like you were saying, Mary. She's got a kind of, because she talks, doesn't she, about the distress of when she suddenly becomes a teenager, and she'll suddenly reflect it on her and be like, "You're not my real mum." You know, she worries about all of these kind of things, whereas in reality, she'll have been in that mother role for Hannah way longer than her actual mum was ever there.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
and so
that's a good point, I think. And I mean, I guess, like we said at the beginning, I mean, the main theme is grief. But not only in that, like, a lot of the themes are just things people go through every single day. And I feel like, you know, that's another one. You know, there are so many families who, you know, maybe they've lost a parent, or they don't live with one or other parent or whatever. So they often have these other figures coming into their lives. And, you know, for that parent and for the child, it's quite a weird experience. And, you know, I'm sure so many people go through this sort of same ordeal in a way, like mentally, in terms of their own thoughts and like what's going to happen when, blah, blah, blah. So I really appreciated the sort of how relatable this book was in a lot of ways. Not that I've necessarily been through half of the things, you know, that they discuss in the book, but I think it's something that's very real, and they're important topics that I don't know. It's nice to see it in such a way that's like, you know, she's Italian author living in Japan, and we're British and living in the UK, and, you know, we can kind of connect with those characters. So it's very much about the human experience, I think. I feel like I've said that already, but anyway.
It's true. It's very true.
Yeah.
It's really true. I think it's also quite because Yui's one ongoing theme about Yui is that she doesn't speak a lot.
Yeah.
So it takes, we're in spoiler, aren't we? Yeah. It takes her until the end of the book to actually speak in the phone. And we know that they've been going back and forth there every month, and then latterly less frequently, but
a lot
for years. But she's never actually gone in and spoken in the phone. And it takes her those years, and obviously this ultimate decision that she's suddenly marrying someone, to speak into the phone. But then she doesn't speak a lot when she's with Takeshi or Hannah either. But then she's a radio presenter, and she, you know, her job is talking, and I think that's always quite interesting.
I enjoyed that difference, and the fact it was pointed out several times by several different people, just being like, how is this person
yeah,
definitely.
I was gonna talk about something. I liked how, again, kind of those sort of in between chapters, or the extra chapters, I like that we see the conversation, or how the conversation starts. I can't remember where it is now. I think I did tab it, but anyway. But then I think it's the daughter's response as well, kind of like in the wind or whatever it was. I feel like that's
it.
I thought so. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, right at the end of the book.
She talks to her mom.
Oh, no. Yeah, you're right. That's it. I just forgot. I thought it was like the one page was to her daughter. The other page was... No, I was wrong.
But that's the only time we hear her daughter's name, which is what you said to me, Janet.
Yeah, that was the other thing. Because I didn't realise.
I'm glad I didn't miss it, because I literally saw it there. I was like, I'm pretty sure I've not seen that before.
Yeah, it's been a while since... I finished it. I don't know how long it's been. There's a fly somewhere. I think it's gone. Anyway. Because I think it was only maybe in the chapter beforehand, she's comparing Hannah and her daughter, and that was the only moment I realized she never says her daughter's name, or like on the page, and it's like Hannah, her daughter, Hannah, her daughter, and like just like that. And I was like, why doesn't she just say the name? And then I was like, I don't think she said her name at all. It's just her daughter, which, you know, fair enough, makes sense. But like, then I was trying to like flick through the pages, but I couldn't see a name written anywhere. So I think it is just right at the end.
I thought, when I noticed it, I thought maybe I mean, I don't have huge amounts of experience with death and grief, but I thought maybe it was because it was possibly too hard for her to say her daughter's name. Like, I can imagine doing that in a way puts a name to the grief, which is what she didn't want, because she was just trying to push on from the moment we meet her. She's just trying to push on with the radio show, with living in Tokyo. She's just trying to push on. So I thought maybe it was to do with, like, if she said the name, it put a name to the grief in a way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Very possible.
Mhm.
And kind of this battle she's got with Hannah, it's as if she has to make, I mean, this is not definite, obviously, but, you know, she constantly says her daughter to maybe prove to her daughter that she hasn't forgotten about her. She's like, my daughter, my daughter, my daughter's like, yeah, we know she's your daughter. No one's taking that away from you.
Yeah.
And then when she kind of comes to terms with the fact that Hannah's now going to effectively be her daughter, she then says her name, because then it's just between the two of them. So because her daughter doesn't need reassurance that she's her daughter, because she knows. So when she's talking on the phone to her, she says her name because it's a conversation between the two of them.
Mhm.
But when she, and it's a safe space, but then obviously when she's with everyone else, it's her daughter, because she needs everyone to know that she had a daughter. You know, if I was Yui and I said someone, just mentioned someone, what does she call her?
Sachiko, I think it was.
Sachiko?
Sachiko, yeah, something like that.
Sachiko. She was just chatting to someone and said Sachiko. They wouldn't know anything, wouldn't know the relevance of who that is to them. But if she keeps saying my daughter, then at least everyone knows that she had a daughter. And it's kind of maybe a way of keeping her alive, because the daughter is the title, but the Sachiko is the name. But Sachiko doesn't mean anything to anybody else that she's met that doesn't know her.
Mhm.
So by saying my daughter all the time, it's like reiterating that she had a child, and she wants everybody to know it. But then by the end of it, she doesn't need to keep proving it. Maybe that's kind of half of her grief. That could be very wrong and complete rubbish. That's an idea.
Yeah. And I'm just looking at the questions at the back of the book again, and then there's one that says, why do you think Yui risks her life to save the phone box? I think it's because she wants to speak to her daughter, but I think when she saves, has she spoken to her?
No.
Before? Yeah, so it's after, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe that's why she was so desperate to try and save it, because I feel like, I mean, she's probably trying to build up the courage to actually say something, but maybe doesn't know what to say. And then when this whole event happens, like the storm, she probably realizes, like, this could be, you know, the last time that I could say something. Or I don't know, maybe what was going through her head. What do you guys think?
I thought she saved the phone box and symbolically the garden as a whole, because the garden saved her. Like, if she hadn't gone there, she wouldn't have met the curator, who obviously talks to her and helps her through a lot of things. She wouldn't have met so many people, including the person who she's currently choosing to spend her life with, because at this point they've kind of decided on the marriage aspect and things like that. So I thought she was saving the phone box in the garden because it had saved her, like not an exchange. An exchange is the wrong word, but just like she felt like she owed it to the garden to save it.
Yeah.
But he's in hospital, isn't he, at the time? So she's like, who's going to protect it? So she goes. Isn't that, you're right, Mariette? Doesn't she go after? That's her few days away. No, it's not.
No,
it's not, because she does that and she gets injured, so she goes to hospital, and then he drives up to see her in the hospital, and that's when he comes out. That's when he decides they're getting married, because she goes back again after that, doesn't she?
Yeah. So that, I think that's the timeline. So they're sitting. So if I remember correctly, they're sitting on the sofa. The weather comes on. They say about the typhoon and the fact the worst of it will hit the garden, and then she's so worried about the garden. She's so worried about the garden and like things like that. She just was like, right, well, I'm gonna go save the garden, and she literally, it sounds like she gets up in the morning and drives straight to the hardware shop, because we seem to go back to the prologue at that point where she's in the hardware shop asking for the loads and loads of material
to
the garden, and then she protects it, ends up in hospital. Then I think that's what. Then the marriage.
Yeah, and then a lot of the characters come back together there, don't they?
Yeah.
And then she goes back with Takeshi, and then he's like, well, the natural progression of things is for us to get married. So, but he's already asked her to move in at that point, hasn't he?
I think so. Yeah, she's been spending a lot of time there.
Oh wait, yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that is like the day that he asked her to move in, which might have something to do with it.
Yeah.
As well.
And it was Hannah's first day of school, wasn't it? No.
I think that was later, maybe.
Ignore me.
I think school.
But I think that's the point. She goes. Yeah, it is. Because then she goes to the garden to save the garden, goes to hospital, comes back, and they're getting married. And then she goes back again when he's the curator of, what's his name? Something Shan.
It was a car.
Suzuki-san. Suzuki-san. He goes back home. He's actually not as poorly as we think he is. He's fine. He goes back after she's been in hospital because he's at the same hospital. Goes back with Takeshi. They get married. She needs the days to think about it. She goes back because they said that she's then like ends up cooking with him and like as a fly, thinking about it and stuff.
Yeah, and doing like earning her way by helping people.
Yeah, and she stays there, doesn't she, for a bit? But no one knows that.
Yeah, because she tells people that she goes to different places because she just needs to get away, which I understand. And then it's the last hour of that visit, I believe, is when she goes into the phone box finally.
Yeah. I also thought it was quite interesting after that like whole storm, when they, I guess it's kind of a symbolic thing maybe, but it wasn't when she's found, there's the boy and his dad who find her, but it's like she's kind of been protected by, is it the phone box and like the bench or something?
Yeah, I thought that was kind of, as you said, very symbolic.
Yeah, I thought it was quite a nice way because it's kind of like, you know, how on earth has she survived? Doesn't matter. She's alive, okay. But I guess in a way it's like, well, actually linking back to one of the other questions that I noticed, it's something like how much of the book is about grief and how much is about hope or something like that. And I feel like it's quite a equal balance in a way. But maybe that's meant to be a symbol of like second chances or something like that. I don't know.
I felt like it was really intertwined. Grief and hope in this book. Like I don't, in real life, I'm not as sure. But like in the book, it felt like with grief came hope, and with hope came grief. It's just the way it was written. You didn't seem to be able to have one without the other, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that actually. It's not exactly related, but I was trying to find a quote that I'd like tabbed. It wasn't the one I was looking for, but okay, there's two that I've got on the same page. I was looking at both. The one I was going to read was Yui and Takeshi gradually realized that the wind phone was like a verb that conjugated differently for each person. Everybody's grief looked the same at first, but ultimately but was ultimately unique. I don't know why that's so hard to say, but I don't know, as a bit of a language enthusiast, I quite like that description, because it's kind of like saying, well, you know, maybe there is supposed to be one way that you follow, I don't know, this rule or system or whatever, but actually for everyone you can't do that. I don't know, maybe with grief, the way you deal with that or the way you hope for something, I don't know, in the future, it's different for everyone. And I think that's the point of the book as a whole, maybe.
100%.
Yeah.
It's sorry, Mariette, you go.
No, it's okay, Zoe, you can go.
I'm kind of just talking about I really personally loved it, the fact that she stuffs chocolate in her face every time she gets to the sea.
Yeah.
That overcoming of that, and the fact that it's overcome in kind of a gross way where she throws up everywhere. But then she's kind of fine with it. It's kind of, the whole book is, like you say, hope and grief. It also kind of shows her journey massively in the sense that it ties up a lot of loose ends or like fixes things for her. You know, she kind of you see her come to terms with a lot of things, and how each of them have helped each other kind of conclude small chapters in their life. And obviously the thing about the sea with her is really tough, and she has to eat chocolate, but then it just kind of, she still eats the chocolate even after she's over it. But I mean, why wouldn't you?
I think I think it shows though, like, how you equate different objects with different meanings, because like when it comes to chocolate and things like that, I brought a chocolate orange the other day, and honestly, as soon as I picked it up, it made me think of Zoe, because of, and just the fact that you had to buy one at one stage, and it just
love a chocolate orange.
I just thought, like, the fact that even when she was still seeing the sea and things like that, and she had to have it, was just like, I think whenever she has chocolate, she probably thinks about the sea now as well. I just thought it was I just thought it just made me think about the different things that I equate with other things. Like buying a chocolate orange instantly made me go, Zoe.
I'm honoured. And it's like having a perfume for a holiday scent. So I have a specific perfume that makes me think of Australia, because that's what I wore when I was in Australia. And sometimes it makes me really sad. But then other times I'm like, oh, this is such a nice smell. It makes me think of good things. So it's the same kind of principle, isn't it? Maybe not to the same degree, obviously, because it's the sea and what it means to her for that. But oh, bye.
It shows how precariously everything is balanced right now. Sorry.
That's all right. So yeah, it's that same kind of thing, isn't it? She has to continue eating the chocolate, but it doesn't have as much of an impact because she's thrown everything up now.
Yeah, I feel like that was quite a good metaphor, I guess. You know, I feel like she's very good at holding things in and bottling things up. She just needs to let it out.
And then Takeshi helps her let it out.
Yeah.
Very literally.
I feel like quite a big, like, reoccurring theme was she talks about is it a dream or something she has about being pregnant again, or if she was...
It's a conception.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I found that a bit random, but I don't know. Each to their own, I guess.
Yeah. But that's kind of the only it's the only time we, in some ways, can't think of the words, but it's the only time we think of her partner, but it's not actually said, nothing to do with the partner or the father of the baby. It's just the fact that she says conception, you know, immediately makes us think about who she conceived with.
Yeah.
Because it's not about having the baby or the first time she saw her daughter, it's about the conception. And that's the only kind of nod we get to the partner, because the conception's actually between the two people, not her daughter. Nothing to do with her daughter.
And she doesn't seem like, like kind of like we were saying earlier, she doesn't really talk about any kind of intimate aspects of her life at all, or, you know, like relationships or whatever, unless it's, you know, the sort of family life, generally speaking, like with her mom or her daughter or whatever. But yeah, like you say, so I thought it was quite, I don't know. I don't really know what I thought of those moments. But
is it to do with the fact that the conception was the moment that her life changed because she became pregnant with her daughter?
Yeah.
But I don't know, because it's an odd, but she does, you know, she has this recurring dream, as you say, and it's very, what is it you're dreaming about? Don't really get it.
Yeah.
But, you know,
I feel like they say anything, but we don't really know, do we?
We don't.
Yeah.
Leading on to a bit of a different topic, but I was curious. So we said earlier that we thought the different characters, none of the characters didn't need to be in the book. So I was curious about what you thought about the different people that she meets at the phone box. So you've got the doctor, the child, and the one that literally goes there to tell his son off. And those different people, I was wondering what you thought of them all and what you thought their impact on the story was.
Ooh. I got a bit confused actually with the son, and because obviously his dad, we think originally that his dad's dead, don't we?
Yes.
But he's actually not. He's just mentally dead. Is that right?
He's like mentally ill, I think. So he's literally like, I think at one stage he explains that it's just him like wasting away and not wanting to live in the corner until the typhoon. Somehow that wakes him up.
So my confusion with that one, because he's in the boat that ends up on the top of a tower or something.
Yes.
But
think
isn't
so.
he
Tries to save loads of people, but he doesn't succeed in saving anyone.
But how would he if he's on the boat on top of a tower? I don't really understand. And also, was he having an affair?
I don't think he was having an affair. But
I thought he was having an affair because he says
And
there's a woman in the boat with him. There's like a nod to the fact that there was a woman in the boat, and then they talk about his relationship with his.
I thought his wife had left him at that point.
No, his wife died, doesn't he? His wife dies.
I thought his wife left him and then died a bit later on.
I don't know. That's what I mean. I was confused because I was like, so is he having an? Because then he talks about how his dad, I think, effectively fell out of love with his wife or something, but like tried to fight for the relationship. But then that kind of, to me, made it more clear that he'd had an affair because they say something like there was another woman on the boat. So I got a bit confused with him.
I was a bit confused by the whole thing. I was like, wait, I don't know. I didn't really know what to think of that. But
yeah, and then he was suddenly on a boat on the top of a tower that became an iconic image of the tsunami.
I was going to say, I assume he ended up on top of a tower because of one of the big waves or something, because some of those waves are huge.
Yeah.
So his story confused me, but I quite liked the son because isn't he one that goes in to be a doctor?
Yeah.
And he ended up working with Takeshi a lot about universities and scholarships and stuff, which I think is really sweet.
Yeah.
And then the guy with his son who kept telling his son off.
And then ends up writing a book.
Yeah.
He was quite interesting.
Who's the guy with the Bible? Who's the religious guy? Was that?
That's the young boy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, he was the doctor.
Oh, is it the doctor? Okay, I can't remember if it was someone else or. Yeah,
I thought that was the little boy. I'm so confused.
No, where is it? No, the doctor with the weird dad. He had the Bible, I believe. And then it was the little boy who found him. The little boy who found Yui. He didn't have. I don't think he had a Bible or anything. He just came to talk to his mum, and he hadn't told anyone else that he was doing it. I don't think he had anything in particular.
I can't remember. I thought the little boy was the one being a doctor.
No, I don't think so. I think that was the one whose name began with S instead of the one whose name began with K.
Yeah, because there's Kaouther. I know how to see that name because I know someone who's Japanese called Kaouther.
Oh yeah, no, it's definitely Shio's who had the Bible.
Okay.
I've literally opened it up to the page where they talk about his favorite Bible passage.
And he's the one whose name means salt, doesn't he? I think.
Yes.
So he's not the one that turns into a doctor.
He is. He's
I'm so confused.
So he's the one who turns into a doctor. Then the little boy, he's only like 15 or something, so I don't think he has a chance to turn into anything. He's still young when the book ends, because they talk about him going to university. He's the one that goes to university in Tokyo in the end, and then goes round to eat food at their house most nights. So he's quite young still, I think.
And was he the one with the dad who's brain dead?
Yeah.
No, I didn't think so. I thought that was true.
I don't remember.
Okay, so Kito, for example, since the young man had moved to Tokyo, attended university, he would often come to the house for dinner, and on ever rarer occasions that we and Takahashi went to Bulgaria, he would join them for the journey, spending the day with his father and sister before going to the phone to update his mother, on his latest achievements. So, yeah, because his dad was the one who helped save Yui at the phone box.
Yeah.
Shio's dad. Why did they talked about it just after the tsunami, they mentioned about the typhoon waking him up, and he was wasting away, and then suddenly
Yeah.
wait.
Clearly, we're very well versed in.
Yeah.
She is definitely the doctor, because of the bit with the nurse and the couriers, where I just opened it to now.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find the bit where they talk about his dad, though. Here. So here it is. So he had to. So Shio's father had been delirious for a week. His body had turned brains swollen. Produced crystal voice. He refused the curtains of the house to sell, but his aunt said he was killing himself. But when the typhoon arrived, the wind created an infernal noise, and the pot was blown through the bathroom window, causing a great commotion. The dead are returning, he shouted, and everyone in the house covered their ears. It was frightening to hear. Outside, everything was cracking and screeching. It sounded like a discordant tune of a marching band. The melody, as it moved further and further away, the glass of the house door shattered, and he was heard the agitated footsteps coming and going, trying to fend off the tremulous wind, the branches, and the mud. Shio's father got up to go and see what was happening, so used by now to ignoring him. Nobody realized that the man had seen the truth behind the scene in front of him. Shio's father began to wail. He curled into a ball and shook for a long time. He cried with his entire body, his eyes, his back, his throat. Nobody had seen him do that since Shio was a child and his mother had died, which felt to his father like a main cast had fallen. And then he's still crying now. So they talk about that when Yuri's in the hospital. So Shio has the dad who's mentally gone. Kito is just without a mother.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Got it. I think.
I think I get it.
Yeah.
Either way, they were very impactful on Yui and Takeshi.
Yeah.
Yeah. The important thing.
Definitely.
They all play roles in their life that,
but
then I suppose they will play roles in each of their lives as well. It's just a story about life. That's basically it.
Basically, yeah. But I think another thing I thought was quite interesting. Again, sort of changing the topic, kind of, but still people related. But she talks quite a lot about the guy when she's in that the school gym after the initial tsunami.
Oh, the guy with the frame.
Yeah. I thought that was quite interesting how that's like the main thing she kind of remembers, other than obviously looking for her daughter and her mum. But I don't know, what do you think was the sort of impact or the importance of that being mentioned a few times? I don't know.
I've just found the chapter with one of these individual chapters. These ones. It says about the frame man's frame, the dimensions, the color, all that kind of stuff. I think he's kind of like, we've talked about the fact that this book's all about kind of life and living in the moment, and moments that destroy you and moments that make you and moments that help you, and each of this book is kind of a moment, because she hears about the story and she goes to the thing, and obviously that in the end she ends up using the same thing with Hannah, doesn't she? So the concept of him is he's got this frame and he looks at everything through the frame, and effectively whatever's in the frame is what he's looking at, and he kind of makes a picture of everything that he's looking at. He doesn't look at the surroundings, he only focuses on what's in the frame. Is that right?
I think so.
So it ends up being kind of a learning for her, because that's what she thinks about, and obviously it's her moments and this, and then eventually she does the same with Hannah, doesn't she? She says, should she get her a frame, or she?
It's a frame to help her split up life as well, which honestly I kind of see as a good idea. Just focusing at that one bit, it probably
just look through the frame and look at your moment that you're in, and it's the only kind of person that she thinks, oh, I wonder what happened to him.
Yeah.
You know, and we kind of
I
find
wonder what happened to him because he just disappeared.
He does, but he's the only one that we don't get a conclusion for. Everyone else we do. But we don't. We never know what happens to him. He just disappears. And we never know if he was waiting for a family member or if he was just lonely or what.
I think it's quite interesting because again, like having had a look at the questions at the back, one about like memory being quite a big theme, and obviously she is looking back on that time in that school gym or wherever she is, and that, you know, seeing the guy. And I think it's quite interesting that he uses a picture frame, because obviously traditionally you would use a picture frame to share your memories from your holidays or events or things that you have done to remember them and look back on and feel nostalgic and whatever. And it's interesting how that moment was sort of what she's taken, you know, as a snapshot in her own head, if that makes sense. If I'm going to sort of twist it like that. But thank you. I came up with it myself. But there's a quote that she says, she was convinced that nostalgia had nothing to do with memory, that we actually feel it most strongly for things we have never experienced. I don't know. I tabbed it just because I liked it, and I was like, "Oh, that's deep. I'm going to try and come back to that later." But I don't know. I don't know if we necessarily feel that for things we haven't experienced, but
I do.
Do you?
Yeah, maybe not nostalgia.
Yeah.
But there are things where you really, you know, like when you're in bed and you're making up scenarios in your head because you can't sleep.
Yeah.
And then you kind of get into that mindset of, oh, I suppose as well, it's kind of like when you're younger and you're trying to figure out how successful you're going to be in the future, and you dream about being
like something that hasn't been yet.
Yeah, but you're desperate for it to happen. But then that's always dangerous, because if it does happen, will it match what's in your head?
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe not. Yeah, maybe you're right. Maybe nostalgia is not the right word. But well, maybe it is.
Maybe.
But yeah, I think he's yeah.
It's interesting. Very interesting. I don't really have anything else to add to it. I don't really know what I think about that, but
But so, he doesn't really. No, you go, Nori, Mary.
I was just gonna say, I don't really. He's a character that you don't forget about as such, because obviously he impacted her, but you don't really think about until Yuri brings him back in, like at the end with giving Hannah the frame. It's kind of like, yeah, he is there. He does help her, obviously, and like gives her something to focus on and something in the future to give Hannah. But I didn't forget about him as such, but he's just one of those characters that kind of went to the back of my head until Yuri brought him up again.
Yeah.
But then he must be prevalent enough for that to be, you know, she keeps going back to him. She doesn't think about all these other hundreds of people that would have been in the gym, coming and going, charging their phone. She talks about these little things that they have to do. She only looks at this guy and I think she talks about how he just kind of went on without any worrying or wondering what anyone was thinking of him.
Yeah.
And she found that quite compelling, I think. And it's inspiring for her, because she goes on, she doesn't care what people are thinking of her, but then she does all at once. But I think she tries to use him as a bit of an inspiration, doesn't she?
Yeah, and I think as well, you know, maybe she feels like, because he's kind of, you know, in his own little bubble in a way, isn't he? He's not really, it doesn't seem like he's paying attention to what's going on around him. He's just got his photo frame kind of in that sort of, I don't know, dimension, I guess. So I wonder if she feels like, you know, maybe not jealousy, but just something like, I wish it was that simple, or like, I wish I could just, you know, look at life through a smaller lens, or I don't know.
I've just thought about this now, so it's not really a fully formed for thought. So as I talk, it may end up being utter garbage, but I wonder if something was in that frame beforehand, like they've just been through a tsunami, like maybe the frames survived but not the picture, or something. And she talks about him possibly being mentally ill in some way, if he's maybe not splitting up the world, but trying to find the picture that's supposed to go in the frame or something by looking through it different ways.
Yeah.
But as I said, this is literally a thought that's just come to my head, so I don't know how like fully formed or accurate it could be. It's just another interesting way to look at it, maybe.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it makes you think like maybe there was something important in there beforehand, and we don't know what it is, and I guess we never will. But yeah, I like that idea actually.
Doesn't at one point doesn't Yui say that more than once she was in the picture frame? She knew that he was looking at her, and I'm pretty sure that happens. Am I wrong? And that's again makes her feel kind of important because she's invested so much at that point. Her mind's everywhere. Obviously, she doesn't know where her mum is or her daughter are. They just doesn't know where they are. She's in this refuge center, and she's just kind of focusing all her attention on this guy with the frame, and it kind of effectively keeps her going. It's something for her to focus on.
Yeah.
And when she knows, she's like, I've definitely been in his picture frame at one point. What was he thinking of me? Like, what was he making up for me as my story? Because he doesn't know. Like, no one knows each other's stories. We don't know his. But I was in his frame at what point? What story was he putting to me?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's open to interpretation, that frame, and I quite like that.
Yeah.
But either way, I like that it's linked back and been brought to Hannah later at the end of the book.
Yeah, definitely. I agree.
Just to draw us to a different topic, because we haven't spoken about it yet, and I feel like it's quite important. Just the wind in general.
Yeah.
What role did the wind play for you? How do you think it worked? I feel like it's such an important topic in this book, but we've not actually got to it yet.
Yeah, I liked how it was kind of portrayed, because I mean, obviously with like tsunamis and typhoons and whatever, it does play its part in terms of devastation. But at the same time, it's so important for the whole purpose of the book, you know, and for all these people, they find peace in it, just as it is, you know, what it does, and you know, I don't know. I don't know what else I was going to say, but I feel like it's not uncommon for, you know, to kind of have like a almost magical side to it, you know, like I don't know, you might I think the idea of like whispering into the wind isn't a new idea, you know, like this kind of topic of the whole book. I don't think it's like a new thing, really. It wasn't like massively mind-blowing in terms of like the theme and the topic and the way the wind is used. But I don't know.
Yeah, you're right. Wind as a phenomenon isn't a new thing. There's always like, you know, whispers in the wind, or gives the secrets to the wind and lets them take her off, or like, you know, oh hello, like Pocahontas, you know, the wind is such a massive character, and I quite like that the wind is a character in this, or you know, like in Frozen too, the wind.
Not seen the second Frozen, but okay.
It's a character, but it's not personified.
Yeah.
And it's a, you know, juxtaposition that wind was effectively one of the main causes of death during the tsunami and then the typhoon, but at the same time it holds everyone's secrets. It's kind of like the wind is the people that's been lost. But I don't think it's romanticized, which I quite liked. It's quite real. It's just like the wind. You speak into the wind and let it go, and that's quite powerful, really. Especially when, you know, you think of like a windy mountain in Japan. It's quite an idyllic scenario and scene, isn't it? That she's painted, and the wind, I think, just adds to that. And in my head, I don't know why, but the wind's kind of like got a really kind of light color pink to it. I think that's probably to do with the cherry blossoms in Japan. But you know, that's kind of how I imagine the whole vibe of that garden. And the way she's written it, it's kind of as if the wind never actually takes it away. They're just kind of blowing around all the time. And that's kind of mentioned a little bit in the typhoon, isn't it, when we see it happen? Doesn't she say that all the secrets and all the people are surrounding her? I might be
Yeah.
wrong. I think that happens.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
agree with that.
So I quite liked it, and the wind's kind of, wind doesn't die down; it's always there, kind of like the sea.
that's
Mhm.
true. I'm
Yeah.
trying to find something.
And I guess as well, while you're looking for that, I quite like when, nature is used in such a personal way, because it is, I mean, we need well, I would argue maybe we don't need the wind, but I mean, it's there. But yeah, like, it's part of life, and I feel like that's why it's so relevant in a way.
Yeah.
I found the bit I was looking for. So it's phrases floating on the wind of Belga Guardia in the month of June. I just liked the fact that, like, I didn't love you then as much as I love you now. It's always raining. I'm starting to get tired of it. Auntie, where are you? Hello, Grandpa. How do you pass the time where you are? 72 people died in a London skyscraper. If you come back, I swear, it is you who's hiding my things by any chance. Can't seem to find anything recently. Found your diary. Will you let me read it? Mommy, it's Hannah. Do you still remember me? And Dad, I just enjoyed the idea that, like, the fact she's given us that little chapter 40 and said that they're floating on the wind around it. It is like they're just not going anywhere, as you said. And I like the fact that she gave us little snippets of what you could technically hear on the wind.
Yeah.
My favourite being, I found your diary. Will you let me read it?
Like they're going to answer. It's quite nice. Very Wuthering Heights, the wind on the moors.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's a really good question. The wind is such an ongoing theme in this, but it's also not massively overplayed.
Yeah, it feels like, I think it was a very good representation of the wind, in that it's just something that's always there, kind of, you don't notice it necessarily on a normal day, but it's just always there. It's just sitting in the background maybe, but and I feel like that's kind of presented in this book in the same kind of way somehow. I don't know. You kind of notice it when you need to, in a way.
It's there when you need it to listen, but when you're just moving on, although it is there, it's not like the wind is always whistling around me. It's not spoken about until it's needed, which I think is fun.
Maybe that's part of the comfort element for the people that talk into it, is the fact that the wind never goes away. So everything they're saying is to the person that they are maybe envisioning the wind as. And then the wind doesn't go, so they feel like the wind is their person that they're speaking to is still with them, kind of surrounding them in all ways. Which I think is that kind of loosely touched on during the typhoon. I'm sure she says something during the typhoon about them all being around her. She feels like all these spirits are around her.
So yeah, I seem to remember that.
Something like that. She's like, all these spirits are surrounding me. And I was like, oh, moody.
Yeah.
Mariette's doing a solid job here on finding all the quotes and stuff.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I'm getting distracted looking out the window.
Oh no!
Right, 1, 2, 3.
You're a sleepy girl, Janet.
I know. I don't know why. Well,
too much sunshine. We do know why.
We do know why. I went for like a 20-kilometer cycle today.
That's a long cycle.
Yeah.
Park run yesterday. Like I think that you mentioned too. You are doing fitness well this weekend.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, considering I spend most of my days sitting at my desk, it's probably a good thing. But yeah.
I went for a 7K walk today.
Ooh, nice one.
Not quite a 20K cycle, but exercise.
it's something. It counts.
It's exercise.
I feel like, just the walk from my room to the fridge should count, but I don't think it does.
I think it should.
Yeah.
I think it should.
If I do it a few times a day, then it's fine.
Steps.
Yeah, exactly.
How are you doing, Mariette? Have you found it?
I think I'm in the right section. Okay, here we are. She could almost see them now, the voices like hoops spinning wildly around children's hips. Dead parents, lost children, missing friends and ancestors who had evaporated into history. The voices of all of those who had been called by the wind phone were coming back to the place that had first summoned them.
Mm-hmm. See, the wind.
Yes.
Mm.
Doing things as the wind does.
Where does the wind go? You know, when
Yeah.
it blows, where does it go?
That is a good question. Question for the ages.
Yes, I think that's too deep.
Yeah.
But that's
For us
what,
indeed.
symbolic for this book, isn't it? That no one knows where these things go, and because they say, people that speak to them, people that have just gone missing, people that have just vanished into thin air. You just have to kind of trust that the wind's going to take what you're saying to them, because you don't know where they are and you don't know where the wind goes. So part and parcel,
Yeah.
they're together.
Mm.
It's kind of the same vibe as like, I live in the middle of the country, Janet, and you live down the bottom of the country, but we both still look at the same moon.
Yeah. Yeah.
We all three of us look at the same moon, and we're all in different parts of the country. And
Yeah.
everyone, like, when you were in Russia, we all looked at the same moon.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Yeah.
You know, that I like it, but it freaks me out a little bit at the same time.
Yeah.
I like
I-
also, just also on the storm bit, I like this bit. So all that was a disaster for mankind, all that killed, burned, drowned, displaced, protected the world's equilibrium. Yuri forced herself to consider what exactly a storm was. It was her way of making this terrifying time pass, because in another hour, surely the typhoon would tire, pounding the soil at the precise point on the earth. She might find herself wounded, perhaps even bleeding in unexpected places. But would she be alive? I just like that bit, the fact that to pass the time, it was her trying to figure out what the storm was. Because I don't know what the storm represented or was. So I'm not even sure I could think about it.
Yeah.
But that was what she chose to pass the time with, was just, I don't know, I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And she kind of becomes a hero amongst them all, doesn't she? Because she saves the garden, she saves the phone box, and they're like, why did she do that? But everyone's so grateful to her for doing it, because she's kept it safe, and it means so much to so many people. They're all kind of united in a little community without even realizing it, because they all have this one common factor of mutual love and desire that keeps them sane. Or they all know each other's little routines. The guy, I think, what is it, the boy, he comes in, he's like, I don't think she's actually ever been into the phone box, but she always seems to just walk around the garden and do her lap, and Takeshi knows that that's what she's going to do, so he goes into the house and lets her get on with it. And it's quite a communal thing, really, that each of these people have this in common, and this is their safe space,
and that they all hope that she will speak into it, that all like, will this be the day that she does it?
And Suzuki-san's kind of like their kind of, I can't think what he is.
He's like a guide to them in a way.
Yeah.
Being a guide, because he doesn't give them advice or anything like that as such. He's just there to listen, to support, and tea and cake and all of that kind of thing. But in the same sense, he still felt like a bit of a guide.
Yeah, like a grandfather figure a little bit.
Yeah.
And the guardian to this phone box that is everyone's kind of love, which is, oh, we love him. I'm so glad he wasn't actually poorly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if it says at all how this kind of started. Is it just like, I mean, in real life or in the book, I don't know, but is it just set up because someone liked the idea of having a phone box in their garden?
I don't think it does, because the setup in the book is that listener who rang in and then spoke about the phone box, and then she goes there. It's almost like, and again, this is the thought that's just in my head now, it's almost like for this author and for Yuri, this book, that the phone box doesn't exist until she finds out about it. That's the way it kind of reads to me, in that she's just literally like, well, I found out I found out about this, and now it exists for me. So I don't think it necessarily mattered to her, and therefore, even though I kind of want to know, it doesn't necessarily matter to the reader how it.
I feel like it's kind of one of those things where it just is. It's always been, well, it obviously hasn't always been there, but for me, it kind of came across as just something that's always been there in a way, because we don't know why or how it was set up, but it's just there now, and that's, you know, there. That's it.
Yeah, I'm just reading the important note at the end of it. And she says, the wind phone is not a tourist destination. Don't look for it on a map. Don't try to find Kajirayama unless you intend to pick up that heavy receiver and talk to somebody you've lost. Don't go there with a camera around your neck. Don't bring out your phone. Instead, hold your heart close. Caress it as you proceed along the path that leads to the phone box. Reassure it that everything is okay. Allow it to open up. There are places in the world that must continue to be like the I personally experienced profound hesitation, but I justified by not going so too much. Panama. For me, the wind phone is mainly there's a metaphor that suggests how precious it is to hold tight to the joy as well as pain. Okay. Sasaki Atura, I'm so sorry, and his wife manage the garden of Belgadia alone. If you'd like to support the existence of this wonderful place, and the charitable foundation of the wind phone depends on which organises many activities through the year to support the area who live there. So there is a website, so maybe that'll tell us.
Oh, okay. I googled it quickly, and I'll be honest, this is the first thing that's come up. So it says the phone was set up by a 72-year-old garden designer in his garden on a small hill with a commanding view of the calm sea in the, I can't read that, in a particular area. It was originally set up after the death of his cousin.
Oh. It says at the front, one day a man installed a telephone box in the garden of his house at the foot of Kajirayama, the mountain of the whale, just next to the city of Ustushi. So he must, so it must have just done it as to do it, I think, and make it part of.
Yeah, and then maybe he mentioned it to someone who mentioned it to someone who mentioned it to someone.
Be interesting to know. I'll have to visit the website and do a little bit of research.
Yeah, I'm having a look at it now. But, it's taking ages to load, though. I think it's just my computer's being really slow because it likes to be slow sometimes.
Well, I imagine us doing this is probably taking up a lot of bandwidth for everyone's internet.
Yeah, also my laptop's about 7 or 8 years old, so that doesn't help. But anyway.
Yeah, I do this on my iPad because my laptop is too old and would not
Fair enough. Yeah.
I work.
Yeah. And is there anything else that we're going to talk about for this book? Yes.
The fact that at the end she has another kid.
Yes. Oh my god. I forgot about that.
She has a son, doesn't she, with Takeshi?
And she has a son and another daughter, doesn't she?
No, she just has Hannah. She has Hannah, and then she has a son with him. And then they're talking about when they're at the... Oh, does she? No, she just has the boy. And then they're at the train station, and she kind of sees her whole life in them, doesn't she? She has like a little moment of a little moment. But I think you've got to be in a very certain place in your life, having gone through that, to be comfortable enough to have another child.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I'm not speaking from experience of having lost a child, but it's, you know, I would imagine that, you know, to feel like you're okay to have to start a new life effectively with someone else and have a new child and have your other child, that, you know, she's gone through this whole process of accepting Hannah as her own blah blah blah. So to have had another kid is
and I think it's a big thing, isn't it? You know, because you're always going to sort of feel like, well, I don't know, but I would imagine you would feel some kind of guilt for moving on and having a new family and starting, you know, or carrying on or whatever.
On that, I think the absolute last line of the book, because I just reread it when I was trying to figure out the children, sums up that perfectly with the more I move forward, the more I find myself sure, you would say, that we are all fixed at the moment of our first word.
Yeah.
On a slightly different note, I'm just looking at the website. The phone phone box looks exactly like the one on the cover, so I like that. It's
That's so cool. Sorry.
Yeah, anyway, just as a little side note.
She's I don't think, because we talked earlier about a little bit about obviously the fact that Takeshi just says we're going to get married in May, and the problems that she has, she comes to the conclusion that this is not the fact that she doesn't want to marry him, because I think it's quite clear they're in love with each other and they want to be together. So let's just point out this is not a forced marriage thing. This is like a genuine, they want to be together. I think her problems are accepting herself as a new family member to Hannah, and having the relationship with Hannah. So I think that's quite pivotal for her, because once she accepts that, then she's happy to accept this new life, which effectively, by the sounds of it, she didn't have in the first place, because she wasn't exactly happy families with her daughter and her husband or partner or whatever. So it sounds a lot like this is a first for her in lots of ways. The fact that she's now got a husband and she's got that picture perfect life of a husband and kids, and they're really happy. But actually behind all of that, so in the frame, it looks like they're a perfect family. They're a picture perfect family. But actually, there's a lot that goes on behind the frame to know that. And so it's, but yeah, she's got, it's such a huge moment shift for her that she's now, and she's got a new mother, she's got a mother-in-law. So, she's now got a new mother figure in her life as well.
Yeah, it just shows how much she's grown, I guess.
But there's never any moment of loss. And I think because they've both been through losses together and gone through that grieving process together with the phone, neither of them are going to let the other forget, or they're never going to not support the other person, because they know their losses, and that's how they met. They've gone through that together. So there's never going to be any kind of dismissal of, Takeshi's not ex-wife, because they didn't split, but wife beforehand. And then Takeshi's always going to acknowledge the fact that she had a daughter that, it's quite,
Yeah. And I suppose it's like you kind of reach a point where you realize, it's okay to have someone come into your life, but they are not a replacement, or they are not replacing someone else that isn't there anymore. It's just, I think that can be quite a difficult thing for a lot of people, no matter what age they are, whether it's, like in the book Hannah, or if it's Yui, or if it's Takeshi, or whoever. It's not like something that's necessarily easy to not get over, but do you know what I mean? Like, understand, or whatever it is that they might be feeling. And I feel like that's why a lot of people do suffer with guilt in those situations, no matter what the reason for it is, whether, if you're marrying into a new family for whatever reason, kind of like we were saying earlier, I think there is a lot of guilt, because it's like, what if, it's feeling like adequate enough to fit that role of someone maybe you've never met, or, you don't know how good a parent they were, or how much they love their children, whatever. And it's like, how am I supposed to like meet up to that expectation or that sort of standard? But then I guess in Yui's case, I think that those are the sorts of things she was worrying about, was, she has already been a mother, even if it was just for a few years. So I guess, it's, I don't know where I'm going with that, but anyway.
It's going somewhere good, so keep going.
I've kind of lost my train of thought now.
That's fine.
There we go. Anyway, it's gone. It's gone with the wind.
Oh.
But I did that. That was not intended.
Anyway. Oh dear. I think it was a fab book. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I really liked it. I would definitely recommend it. I've even told my mum to read it. She hasn't yet, but
my dad's taking it with him. He's going away for work in a week or so, and he's going to take it with him.
Nice one.
There's one quick thing that while I was flicking through, I wanted to ask about, and I hope it's quick. Just because we've been talking for an hour and a half now.
Okay.
It's mentioned in the book that Yuri feels like that she gives body parts to different people.
Yeah, I didn't understand
that. Like her feet. And that kind of thing. And how they were returned to her. And I was wondering what you thought about like the symbolism, and if you think that when people come into life, you give them a part of yourself, or whether that's not something you've ever really thought about, because I hadn't thought about it until
Now you mention it, I have, but not in that way. It's a bit different, but like, I mean, I've always said I want to get a tattoo. I haven't, but for a long time, and still now I'm kind of contemplating it. I like the idea of having kind of nautical themed tattoo because my grandpa was in the Navy. So I was thinking of having an anchor on one ankle and like the ship's wheel on the other ankle. And the reason being on my feet is because we always went for walks. So that's the kind of connection there, but it's not exactly the same as in the book. It's not like I don't know, it's more that that's just something we did, and you know, that's kind of a memory that I'll always have of him. So yes and no, I guess, is my answer. But
it kind of creeped me out. I think I'm not good with that kind of thing, like bodily parts of lot. But I thought it was so vulgar. Like she gave her lungs to someone and things like that, and I was just like, but I didn't fully. I think I didn't fully understand it. That was maybe the bit that I didn't like, because I didn't fully understand it. I think I understand when you say you give your heart to someone, I understand that, but maybe it's because, again, I've never thought about it, or I've never looked at someone and been like, I'm going to give my foot to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
This part of my body.
It doesn't really ring true for me, but then I don't know. I've never thought about it, but it didn't make a lot of sense. Doesn't she say something like about her dad? She said, I gave my dad my heart or my lungs, something, and he stomped on it and never gave it back. Something like that.
Yeah, I forgot about that, but actually no.
Unless it's a way of her saying that she just gives herself to everybody, not in like a bad way, but like she's such an open, giving person that she just gives herself in all ways to people.
Yeah, I think so too. I actually quite like the sort of symbolism of that, though. I think, you know, there are people who give certain parts of yourself too for different reasons. So, although I feel like her description was quite out there.
So yeah, she gave her little finger on her right hand to the girl who she sat next to in elementary school, returned in one piece after 6 years. Her left foot to her best friend in junior high, and then her right foot to the same person when they went to high school. Returned when that friend moved to the United States. Her right breast, bladder, and inside both of her cheeks to her daughter's father, left to languish and suffer from their absence and reclaimed. Like, that's the most we hear about her daughter's father. It's literally that. Her spine to her editorial staff, still on consignment. Her heart to her father returned crumpled up when he remarried. It took years to heal. She would entrust nothing more to him. Those are parts of the body she talks about.
Yeah. I mean, it's quite interesting in that way, because I recently saw something, I don't know if it was on Instagram or what, but it was like describing friendships or I guess relationships as well, the people in your life, as being like different keys to yourself, and they all kind of open different parts of you, if that makes sense. Which I quite liked, and it's very similar to that in a way, because, you know, maybe if you're no longer friends with someone, you can change that lock and get rid of that key. Okay, but yeah.
I just was curious because I've never thought of it like that. Like my housemates, I've never thought, right now they have both of my arms.
Yeah.
Not
well,
really
exactly.
what I thought about, to be honest.
Yeah.
It is a bit weird. I kind of get it, like she gives, but then at the same time I don't. That was probably my least favorite bit. Don't really get it. But I get it.
Yeah, like I can see where it's going. Yeah,
I understand it in a way to think about things, like your key, like different people have different keys to you. I understand it as a way to think about things, and it's interesting how she felt that they were returned to her.
Yeah.
I've not gone, yes, I live with my two best friends right now. I give them my bladder and my lungs. That's what I give to them, and I hope they return them in one piece. That's never how I've thought about it at all. Like, I give them my time and things, and they give me theirs. Like that kind of concept, but I've never thought of, yes, here's a part of my body I entrusted to you.
Yeah. I suppose maybe it's something that we'll never know. What did she say she gave to the father of the baby? Her right breast and her
bladder and to both her cheeks, I think.
I can't really think how that's relevant. I mean, maybe other than the right breast, but
her right
Well,
breast,
I was going to
bladder,
say you could kind of,
her cheeks.
yeah, you could sort of, hang on, which,
both cheeks and her right breast and her bladder.
Yes.
So maybe he like kissed her on both cheeks and then made her need to pee because he made her nervous.
Or like,
Yeah.
I don't know, because I've never having a child. Like people say when you have a child, like your bladder gets smaller and you end up needing to go to the toilet a lot. I don't know if it's symbolism for
Maybe that.
Maybe that's what I was thinking, like to
And
do
then
with.
breastfeeding the baby.
Yeah.
Oh.
Interesting. Interesting concept.
It's an interesting concept. That's the
It
worst
is.
thing to do.
That's, yeah, I feel like we should leave it at that.
Let's.
Yeah, it's such a weird, like, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, and before they died, her mother carried one of her intestines and her daughter a lung. And for that reason, however much happiness she experienced, she would struggle to eat and to breathe.
See, that
Okay,
makes
that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fury developed her own theory that for some people, life started loosening their joints, and when they were still in the cradle, they had to work hard to hold the pieces together. She imagined those people juggling a bunch of limbs, ears, feet, and kidneys in their arms, like parts of the game of operation. Then at some point, something would slot into place. They'd fall in love, start a family, get a well-paid job, a nice career, and they would begin to feel more stable. The truth was, though, they were just giving parts of themselves to relatives and trusted friends. They were learning that it's normal not to be able to cope on your own, and asking people for what help the only way forward. If there were other things they wanted to do with their lives, they had to depend on others. And then what happened? That's when Yuri believed luck came in, because if those people lost someone who had been looking after a fundamental piece of them, they would never be able to regain their balance. The harmony would be gone, along with their loved one.
So beautiful.
So good.
Let's.
Wow. I mean, I have nothing else to add to that. So.
I have nothing else to say.
Yeah.
Nothing else to say. I really liked it. Great choice, Mariette.
Yeah, really good one.
Statements. Why should people read this book?
Just for every reason. Just out of curiosity, if you've heard anything about it, if it's on your radar, if you've just heard it today, like, I don't know. I think it's so different to anything else that I've read, or at least from what I remember. And I can't remember if this got me out of a reading slump or if it didn't get me into one anyway. I just got through this so quickly. Loved it. So,
Zoe?
Yeah. I think anyone that is possibly struggling with grief or just wants to kind of open the tap on some emotional baggage. It's just it says at the front, a striking haiku of the human heart. And I think that's really, really, I just think it's such a lovely book. It's not difficult to read. I mean, it obviously covers difficult themes, but not in like a tough way.
Yeah.
It's just really beautiful. And I think it's not a challenging story or anything. It's just a very true, honest story that could very easily be true, you know. I think it's just a really positive, emotional, nice book. I think you should read
it. This book did get me out of a reading slump. I hadn't read anything for almost the entire month of April. I don't know what happened to my brain. It just would not focus on words at all. But I knew that this book club would be coming up, and I knew that it was my pick, so I had to read it at some point. So I think it was Sunday last week. I told myself that I had to pick it up, and I told myself I would read at least 50 pages a day, because then I knew I'd get it done in time. But this book is just so gorgeous and so beautiful. that 50 pages a day was stupidly easy to read and did not take me long to do. So it just, it's just so nice and so comforting, even though it covers hard topics of grief, of loss, of sadness, of trying to find yourself again. It just is so beautiful and so heartwarming, and I like the fact that it ends with most things in a nice bow, if that makes sense. You're not left. You don't finish it thinking, oh, I wonder what happened to this person. There's only like the guy with the blue frame that you think about with. It just ends in a nice bow and makes you go, no, it's okay to read. Like, books are nice. Whatever I don't know what even put me into the reading stuff. I cannot remember. I think it was multitude things. I think I tried 2 or 3 different books and I just could not get into any of them. But it just reminded me that what books can be and what it does feel like to read and the different worlds it takes you into. So I highly recommend this book to anyone who just needs something simple but a pick-me-up that does deal with a few harder topics.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah,
and I think it's one that would be interesting to read again as well, and maybe every few years, or I don't know, every 10 years even, like as you are in different stages of your life. I think it will mean something else or something different. So I think that would be quite interesting to see if it does change any opinions or
100%.
But well, before we finish completely, next month, or this month I guess, because we're in May, it's my monthly pick.
Yes.
I've actually look, I've just got it over here. How convenient.
Oh my word.
It's much darker in my room than it was at the start, but my pick is A Bookshop in Algiers. The paperback is coming out at the end of May on the 26th, but it's not very long. This is the hardback. I'm very excited. I can't really remember what it's about, not gonna lie, about a bookshop in Algiers. But yeah, so if you want to join us for our next live stream, which will probably be at the start of June, make sure to follow us on Instagram and Twitter. Links in the description, so you know when that will be. But yeah, I feel like that's all we have to say.
Thank you very much.
We'll give everyone more warning than this time, because honestly I didn't realise this stream was at 6 until about 5.
Fine.
I feel like we were very good at organising it, so
yeah.
But
we've done very well. Thank you so much, Mariette. Great book pick.
Big. Anyway, we will finish there. So see you next time.
Bye everybody. Bye.